thing is, we really only had one reservation. We want to show you how we did it. We didn't know where we were staying every night, but we always found a spot. We left on Labor Day.
Pulled over to sleep in two different rest areas. One was like 2 hours, the other one was like, I don't know, 3 or 4.
And then we made it into, I believe, Indiana, and that was our first campground we stayed at, and we stayed at a state park. And that's when we had the lightning strike.
Right. Lightning hit a tree less than 100 feet away from us 5 minutes after we pulled into the campground.
4 or 5 campers around here are now sporting brown girl.
We crossed into Minnesota and we stayed at the Welcome Center. We didn't think you were allowed, and the sign said you weren't, but the guy was real nice. He said, You can stay.
Almost every state that we were in, there are rest areas along the highway. Their state policies said that if you weren't like a commercial truck driver, that you were limited to 3 hours in terms of a stay.
We stayed at a campground in South Dakota called Happy Campers in Chamberlain. We were there overnight.
And we got into the Badlands. We stayed at the Badlands Interior Campground and Motel. There, that was our longest stay. We stayed there 3 days. From the Badlands, we headed to, I think, Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, well, we went up to Devil's Tower next.
Yeah, and Crazy Horse, which was a complete waste for us because it poured rain and thunderstorms.
Right, during the laser light show that we couldn't even see through the windshield.
Yeah.
Let alone see the mountain.
So we stayed at, that was our first KOA at Spearfish in Black Hills.
South Dakota.
And then
Right.
South Dakota in the Black Hills National Forest. I think this was our most expensive campground, was the KOA in West Yellowstone. They were full. We got a tent site for $68. That's where we heard the coyotes.
Hello, you're there.
All right, so then we went to Spring Creek Campground in Montana, and that was a national forest outside of Yellowstone. This is the one that was about 9 miles from Yellowstone. That was the one I loved. We were right on the water. I think we actually went live from there one time. I guess we only stayed a couple days there, but we would go in and out of Yellowstone in there. We went into West Yellowstone in Montana, and that was a cool little place. That's where we found a really cool ice cream shop and the grizzly bear
And Wolf Discovery Center.
And these grizzlies were too friendly and not afraid of humans, so rather than putting them down, I guess they grabbed, I think they had 4 grizzlies in the center.
8.
Oh, they did have 8? Okay, and they brought them in there, and it was like a zoo,
But they would rotate the grizzlies, so they'd be out in the viewing area for a couple hours each, and then they'd have them go back into their cage.
yeah, it was a cool place, though. And we stayed in Custer-Gallatin National Forest. And then we went into Bridgerton-Teeter National Forest in Wyoming, Hatchet Campground. That was nice there, too. It rained the whole time we were by the Grand Teton area. So this is after we left Yellowstone, then we were going to the Tetons. But beautiful country. Then we swung on into Utah. We stayed at Bear Lake, and that was a private campground. That was a nice campground. That was probably pricey. I don't remember what we paid for it. Probably $50, $60. And then from there, we went to the Great Salt Lake State Park. And then I have us at North Fork Campground, Buffalo Bill State Park, and that was like a state park. That was only $15 a night. And then we were sleeping in a Grouse Mountain dispersed camping with the cows. That was kind of cool. So from Utah, now we made a detour because I wanted to meet up with Gone Again. The other YouTubers, I knew they were going to be in Nevada, and Nevada is only this far away on the map.
Boy, was I suckered by that one.
I loved meeting Rick and Linda. They were great people. We camped across from them in Ward Mountain Campground in Nevada. That was a very nice campground. But when we left, Rick did tell us a place to go disperse camping in Humboldt National Forest. And we went there, and that was our favorite spot. It's because we were in the middle of nowhere. No one was around. And we actually sat there and shot guns in our site, which was legally able to do so. So that was kind of cool. From there, we went to Cathedral Gorge in Nevada. That was a nice place. I don't think that was a state park, I think, too, wasn't it? So that wasn't too expensive.
Cathedral Gorge was a state park.
Mm-hmm. So that
It was
wasn't
only
expensive.
like $20 a night or something.
Then we wound up dispersed camping at Deer Haven in the Dixie National Forest. And that is when it snowed. So we're 10,000 feet up and we get snow. That was a little nerve-wracking because the whole time driving up there, all we saw was deer hunters. And I'm thinking, great, we're up here in the middle of the snow. There's deer hunters all over. The wind's blustering. And then there's thunder and lightning. I'm like, really?
The dispersed sites along this one road that we went on, every site was occupied by hunters. And I actually stopped and spoke with one of them. And apparently they had all reserved these sites in advance. So,
and there was one campground, but there was a thing across it and it said it was closed.
It showed up on the map as being a dispersed campground, but it turned out to be a group site, and it had the metal gate across it and was locked up.
Yeah. And then the next day, I think we found a spot earlier. That's when we went to Riverside Campground, which Panguitch, Utah. So this was a lady's private property, and we camped on her property. They're all by ourselves, so that was kind of cool. And that was near Bryce. Then we found Twin Hollows Dispersed Camping. That was near Zion, about 10 miles from Zion. That was free camping. All right, then we moved on to the Grand Canyon. And we stayed at a campground called 10X Campground. And I don't think that's too far from the Grand Canyon. We stayed there a couple nights. That was like a state campground. It was only $15 a night. Again, we didn't have any problem, but we were in the shoulder season.
Then we camped at a BLM campsite called Burrow Creek in Arizona. And that was pretty nice.
And it looked like we stayed at a place called Clear Creek. We found a dispersed camping site. And we heard from Rick that even if the gate is shut, it doesn't mean you can't go in there. You just have to shut the gate behind you. So we found this road. It was Coconino National Forest in Flagstaff, Arizona, I believe. So we open the gate, we go in, and it was really, really rough. But we wound up camping there for a night. The next day, of course, is when we have our blowout on the interstate in Arizona. So after the blowout, looks like we stayed at a couple KOAs. We stayed at Turquoise Trail in New Mexico, and that was right around the balloon festival time, so that campground was packed. We were in an overflow area. And it wasn't just the balloon festival, it was the eclipse.
Yeah, so we actually watched the eclipse from our campsite, which was in a parking area next to a prairie dog town.
Yeah, well, you were putting New Fender on the camper. And then we stayed at a place called Santa Rosa State Park, which was on a reservoir in New Mexico. So then we stayed at a couple RV park in Vega, Texas, Route 66 RV park. You know, these were just private parks. They were kind of like not that far off the road, because at this point, we're tired. We don't want to go looking for a campground. We did, however, go to Fort Smith or State Park in Arkansas. That was maybe, 10 miles off the main road?
Actually, I think more than that. It was probably about 15.
Yeah. But it was so worth it. Oh my goodness. It was the most beautiful state park we've ever been to. We went into Tennessee and we thought about staying at Bass Pro Shop.
The parking area was underneath of this bridge that crossed the river. You're right along the river.
Yeah, and you just hear the cars going over, and you're in the city of Memphis, and I just didn't feel right. So we moved on. We slept in a Walmart for the first time.
Oh, great. Now she's going to want a Walmart sticker.
Hey, Rick, that's a great idea. So I designed this. We have stickers and shirts in our store. I didn't see any other cars staying there, but there were trucks staying there.
And they did have a cop, sheriff's car pull in and sit there for a while.
From there, we went to Nashville, and Nashville, we did call the day ahead of time to make reservations. That campground was probably a little bit more. It was a private campground, but they offered free shuttle service into Nashville. So we loved that. We went in for a drinking day, a bar hopping day. So that was perfect. And from there, we went to, looked like another KOA in Kentucky, and then we stayed in Rocky Gap State Park in Maryland.
And then at last we made it to New Jersey, home sweet home.
The longest day of driving that we did was about 480 or 490 miles.
So we pushed a little bit to get back. I miss my dogs so much. I really wanted to see my dogs. So we spent, I believe, it was a little bit less than $1,000 on all of our stays. It could have been way cheaper if we didn't stay at the KOAs. The reason we stayed at KOAs is they were convenient. They were right there. It's dark. It's late. We need a place to stay.
And they're always just a stone's throw off of a highway.
Yeah. or we want to do our laundry. Okay, so 51 days, about 8,000 miles. We only had one reservation, two if you can't count the one from Nashville. We stayed at free dispersed camping spots, state parks, national forest campgrounds, a few private campgrounds, and KOAs.
BLM.
And BLM, yes. Our longest stay was 3 days, so we were constantly moving. And we had one night, free night, where we were lost in the woods. Here's the problem. When you're on a dirt road, in a forest road, they're narrow to begin with. We're towing the trailer. The roads aren't wide. There's nowhere to turn around. So we just keep going straight. We don't know how long it's going to be till we get to a place we can turn around. It wound up being 30 miles. And it was a rough road. We almost got stuck. So there you go, guys. That is our cross-country road trip, just to show you how we did it. And you're going to do it your own way, but it was very doable without having every destination planned.
Be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and be sure to check out more Rick and Sharon's adventures.